Hello everyone, welcome to the morning call. I'm Hanan Fejani, broadcasting live from Congo.
And I am Robert Kodingo. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the morning call. We are broadcasting this live in French and English. Now, a look at the fate of South African President Jacob Zuma after being told to pay back the money. And what if he cannot pay that back? If he cannot pay back that money?
Will the Senegalese president suffer following his decision to pardon Karim Wade in the next elections? We talk about this later in the show.
On our bulletin, leader of the Islamist group in Mali and Sardinia, it releases a video threatening France and the UN peacekeeping mission in the country. We have that after 22 months.
Algeria set to record increase in oil production. This year, the output will reach 69 million tons against 67 million tons last year. Details in our business segment.
A warm welcome to today's broadcast. South African President Jacob Zuma will have 45 days if the Constitutional Court approves the country's Treasury report to pay back 7.8 million rand. That's about $508,000 he owes the state in a corruption scandal involving security upgrades of his home, then Kandla.
Well, you have to note that the amount calculated by the Treasury is not unanimous. Well, according to the main opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, the $500,000 only represents 3.2% of the total amount of state funds spent by the head of state on the upgrades. So it's up to the Constitutional Court to decide. If it approves the amount, Zuma will be required to repay the figure in 45 days. Claire Modinji gives us more.
South African President Jacob Zuma will have to pay about $510,000 for the refurbishment of his Nkandla home, which was done with taxpayers' money. The National Treasury, in line with the Constitutional Court order, submitted its report on Monday. In March, the court had ordered the president to pay some of the $16 million he had spent to upgrade his home. The court had ruled that the head of state had violated the constitution by refusing to pay the renovation costs of his private property, specifically those that do not relate to security. Zuma, however, said that he would comply and pay back a portion of the money. He now has 45 days to pay back the entire amount.
Now we have Professor Somadoda Fikeni online right now. He's joining us from Johannesburg, South Africa. Professor, what happens if President Zuma cannot pay back the money or the court proves that he's indigent?
Well, I do think that he has to go back to the Constitutional Court so that the Constitutional Court can hear reasons why he cannot pay. So it can only be changed through a judicial review. Otherwise, he has no other option but to pay.
Now, there was a conversation about impeaching President Zuma. Will this divert or will this fuel further that conversation of impeachment?
Well, I do think that the ruling party, which has the majority in parliament, is unlikely to let any impeachment discussion go any further in parliament. Instead, the focus among the political parties now is on the local government elections, which is coming on the 3rd of August. So they are likely to use this as a proof and a vindication of their position that the president was involved in a corrupt relationship, whereas the ruling party may say this matter is behind because the president has settled and is going to pay.
And the prosecution and the conversation around the prosecution and especially the office of Thuli Madonsela and the opposition right now, where do they lie?
The opposition in the first place is the one that took the public protector to the Constitutional Court when they realized that Parliament, which has an ANC majority, was not going any further and was defending the president in all instances. So to this extent, I don't think there is any other further recourse for the opposition parties because what they ask for will now have been fulfilled. In terms of the prosecution, it's a different case that is being forced to open up. The cases he had when he was deputy president, just before he became president, those charges were removed, but now the courts have said he should be tried for those charges.
That was Mr. Somadoda Fikeni joining us from Johannesburg.